The movie begins with a young woman cooking in the kitchen when her husband suddenly approaches her in a strange, trance-like state. He seems to be completely out of control, as if possessed, and without any awareness or will, he stabs her with a large knife. As if forced, he stabs her again in the stomach, killing her. All of this happens while their young daughter, distressed, hears everything from her room. Years pass, and the father ends up in prison. People start referring to him as the Puppet Man. Now grown up, his daughter, Michael, lives in a dorm with her roommate, Charlie. One day, Charlie brings up what happened to Michael as a child when she witnessed her father murder her mother. At school, a guy named Danny joins Michael and Charlie, and they all decide to grab food at a restaurant. However, Michael suddenly feels unwell and heads to the restroom. While she's gone, Glenn, another classmate, joins the group. Meanwhile, in the restroom, Michael is hit with terrifying flashbacks of her childhood. Just as the memories overwhelm her, Charlie comes in, startling Michael. Charlie invites Michael to a get-together with friends. When Michael exits the restroom, we see something unsettling. An unknown figure has written "Hello" on the steamed mirror. Later that night, while Charlie is working on her laptop, Michael, in her sleep, starts sleepwalking. She leaves the room, lost in a dream where she's reliving her childhood. While sleepwalking, she scratches her hand and uses her blood to draw a strange symbol on the wall. Charlie finds her just in time, wakes her up, and brings her back to their room. They talk about what just happened, but Michael remembers none of it. In the next scene, Charlie's laptop chimes with a notification. While alone in the room, Michael, driven by curiosity, opens the laptop and starts watching some videos. She's shocked to find footage of herself sleepwalking. Charlie had secretly recorded it. At that moment, Charlie walks in and sees Michael going through the videos. Upset, Charlie confronts Michael about her snooping. Glenn plans to buy alcohol for the upcoming party using a fake ID. Meanwhile, Michael notices a strange scene across the street. Large group of crows perched in the trees, which feels eerie. Glenn and his girlfriend, Jo, eventually manage to get the alcohol for the party through a bit of trickery. Excited, they meet up with their friends and get ready for a fun night. When the night finally arrives, the group gathers, drinking beer and alcohol, celebrating and toasting to a good time. Things take a turn when Glenn starts mocking Michael's strange behavior. Michael, upset that Charlie isn't defending her, gets angry and decides to leave. But in that moment, it's as if something dark and evil within Michael awakens. Suddenly, she gains control over Charlie, making him move against his will. Charlie, unable to stop himself, walks backward and falls off the roof, dying instantly. A detective interrogates Michael, asking her to explain what happened. Afterward, Michael, clearly shaken and knowing something dark is inside her, leaves the dorm without saying goodbye to anyone. In the next scene, Danny, worried about Michael, separates from Glenn and heads to the dorm. He knocks on Michael's door, but she doesn't answer, as she's asleep inside. Danny, feeling troubled by the loss of their friend, sits in the hallway, thinking. Suddenly, he notices Michael's door is open, but she's not in the room. Panicking, he runs to the stairs and finds her on the roof, sleepwalking near the edge. Just before she falls, Danny saves her life. Back in the room, They go through Charlie's laptop again and watch more videos of Michael sleepwalking. In one of the videos, Michael uses lipstick to draw a strange symbol with 3 lines on the mirror. When Danny asks her about the symbol, Michael simply says she saw it as a child, but she doesn't know why she keeps drawing it. In the next scene, Michael sits alone in her room, tears streaming down her face as she misses her friend Charlie. Suddenly, she hears a strange noise coming from the window. When she looks, she sees crows flying full speed into the glass, seemingly trying to kill themselves. Panicked, Michael screams in terror. The next day, a garbage collector is puzzled by the sight of all the dead crows. Later, Charlie's mother visits Michael and Danny, grieving her daughter's loss. She asks Michael to attend Charlie's funeral. Just then, Charlie's phone, now in her mother's possession, rings. When she answers, a woman on the other end of the line asks to speak to Michael. The caller, who seems to be a psychic, claims to know about the strange events surrounding Michael and wants to help. Danny gathers his friends, and they decide to visit the psychic's house together to learn more about Charlie's mysterious death. When they arrive, Ruby, the psychic, gathers Michael's friends in a room while Michael waits outside. Ruby tells them that Charlie had sensed something dark and terrifying inside Michael and had been trying to bring her to Ruby for help before she died. She assures them they can work together to solve this. Michael notices a book in the library titled Cult of Dolos, which seems oddly familiar to her. Ruby then calls Michael in. Ruby then tells Michael that her mother's death and now Charlie's were not her fault, but there's a dark entity inside her. Ruby says they will try to connect with the spirits of Michael's mother and Charlie to identify this dark force. Through a spiritual connection, Ruby channels the spirits and begins receiving visions, which she scribbles onto paper. She soon realizes that the entity inside Michael is the one responsible for Charlie's death. Shaken, Ruby hesitates to continue, but Michael demands to know what was revealed. Reluctantly, Ruby shows her the paper. Michael, desperate for answers, insists that Ruby finish the ritual and tell her exactly what this entity is. Under pressure, Ruby resumes the psychic connection and, after receiving another message, writes down, "I am Michael." This revelation hits Michael hard. She breaks down in tears, devastated and filled with sorrow. The group leaves the house, with Danny trying to console Michael as she struggles to process the truth. Later, Joe and Glenn begin researching Michael's past on their laptops, hoping to uncover more about what might be behind everything that's happened. The next day, Michael and Danny head to the prison to visit her father. However, midway through the trip, Michael starts feeling sick again, as if the dark entity inside her is tormenting her. Inside the prison, her father, David, talks to her. Michael is desperate to find a way to control the evil within her, but David reveals a horrifying secret. He tells her that he and her mother deliberately performed a ritual to summon a demonic entity. The key to the ritual was the combination of purity and evil. The innocence of a young girl was used to create the creature inside Michael. David, now seemingly insane, blames Michael for everything, holding her responsible for the terrible events. Another night, Michael starts sleepwalking again, drawing the 3-line symbol with her own blood while her friends watch, now fully aware of the strange and terrifying nature of what's inside her. Danny wakes her up, trying to end her suffering. Later, out of curiosity, Joe meets with Ruby again to learn more about the dark entity inside Michael. Ruby gives her a book titled The Cult of Dolos and tells her to read it. Joe immediately texts Glenn and Danny, telling them she has important information but warns them not to say anything to Michael. In the next scene, Michael confides in Danny. She tells him that when she was in foster care, one of her foster fathers had inappropriate attractions to young girls. Michael hated him, and one day, she found his body hanging from a tree with the word sorry written on his body. She worries that her hatred and anger may have triggered these events, and that the evil entity inside her is using her emotions to control others and kill them by taking over their minds and bodies. Meanwhile, Glenn is at the gym, lifting weights, while Joe is in the library, opening the book to study it. When Joe realizes the gravity of what's inside the book, she panics and calls Ruby for advice, but it's already too late. After reading the book, the dark entity takes control of both Joe and Glenn. Under the entity's mental control, Joe is compelled to drop her lit cigarette onto the book, setting it on fire. At the same time, Glenn is forced to keep adding more weight to the barbell, pushing his body to its limits. The entity then makes Joe press her face into the flames, burning her alive as she dies a horrific death. Glenn, unable to control himself, collapses under the weight, which falls on him, leading to his own brutal and gruesome death. In the next scene, Michael, feeling responsible for everything and seeing no way out, decides to take her own life. She stands at the edge of the street, ready to throw herself into traffic. With her eyes closed, she steps into the road as cars speed toward her. But, to her surprise, all the drivers slam on their brakes at once, and every car comes to a stop. Undeterred, Michael tries again, this time attempting to jump off a bridge into the river below, hoping to drown. But in a miraculous twist, the dark, evil force inside her pulls her back up to the bridge right after she jumps. Danny, who has been looking for her, happens to see this moment and rushes over to help her. The next day, the detective calls them in for questioning about the deaths of their friends. After the interrogation, the detective asks Michael to explain why the word sorry was written on both bodies and why their deaths were so suspicious. Later, Danny and Michael visit Ruby again, desperate to find a solution. Danny tells Ruby that he saw Michael try to commit suicide, but something brought her back and he asks for help. Ruby warns him that Michael mustn't know. They're trying to help because if she finds out, the entity inside her will find out too. Michael, distressed, asks Ruby what to do, confessing that the evil inside her has killed all her friends, and that she needs to control it. But Ruby, clearly afraid for her own life, claims she's a fraud and gives them back their money, urging them to leave immediately. As Danny drives Michael home, she presses him to tell her what Ruby really said. Danny tries to hide the truth, but when he resists, the entity inside Michael uses its power to force Danny to break one of his fingers. In pain, Danny finally admits that Ruby returned their money and didn't say much. As he looks at the money, he finds a hidden note from Ruby that reads, "Read this alone. Keep Michael away from everyone." At that moment, the evil presence inside Michael takes control of Danny, making him slam his head against the steering wheel violently. The blow causes severe brain trauma, and Danny dies right there in the car. Michael, devastated and filled with guilt, breaks down, heartbroken over what's just happened. Michael, completely defeated and broken, walks into the police station and tells the officer on duty, "I'm a dangerous murderer. You need to kill me." The officer, confused but alarmed, pulls his gun on her. But before he can do anything, the dark force inside Michael takes over, mentally forcing him to turn the gun on himself. The officer shoots himself in the neck, killing himself instantly. Chaos erupts as more police officers rush in and aim their guns at Michael. She pleads with them, begging them to kill her, telling them she's the killer. But in the blink of an eye, the officers, under the influence of the evil within her, start shooting at each other, killing one another so the entity inside Michael can remain alive. Just then, the lead detective sneaks up behind her and shoots her with a tranquilizer dart, knocking her unconscious. It's revealed that Ruby had contacted the detective and explained everything. Together, they plan to help Michael by communicating with her real self, while she's unconscious, bypassing the control of the dark entity. In this dreamlike state, Michael communicates through writing, telling them, "My blood and my father's blood." The plan becomes clear. Before her father's execution, they will transfer the demonic entity from Michael into her father, where it will die along with him, breaking the cycle forever. As the detective watches footage of Michael mentally forcing the police officers to kill themselves, he understands just how powerful and dangerous the entity is. Michael eventually wakes up, preparing for her final visit with her father. During the visit, she tells him her plan to transfer the entity into him and end it once and for all. Their blood is linked, and by holding hands, the entity can be passed from her to David. At the moment of David's execution, the demon will die with him, and Michael will finally be free. They hold hands, and the transfer begins. As David is given the lethal injection, he feels the evil presence taking over his body. The nurse, who is supposed to administer the final dose, is momentarily controlled by the entity, causing him to freeze. But the evil inside David quickly rejects the nurse's body, and he regains control. In his final moments, David dies, but as he passes, we see a sinister look in Michael's eyes. The movie ends with the chilling realization, you can never trick a trickster. The puppetman lives on inside Michael, continuing its evil through her.